Ye, formerly known as Kanye Amari West, is one of the most controversial figures in modern pop culture history. But he's also the fucking GOAT.
Wake up, Mr. West!
George Bush doesn't care about black people.
I like some of the Gaga songs. What the fuck does she know about cameras?
Really happy for you. I'm gonna let you finish. But Beyonce had one of the best videos of all time.
Everybody wants to know what I would do if I didn't win. I guess we'll never know.
Before anyone gets in the comment section crying, oh my gosh, you're being so biased, you just like Kanye, this is a super biased video, bro. Obviously this video is biased. Obviously I'm being biased in this video because this is a biased conversation. The conversation of GOAT in rap is a biased one. It's an opinion-based conversation. I know people like to speak on rap as if it were a sport akin to a basketball or football or soccer, I guess the other football. But at the end of the day, what rap really is art. And art is subjective. There are technically no right answer. So the argument that I'm going to be presenting you with today in this video is the argument for who I believe has made the best rap music throughout their career. You can agree, you can disagree, but technically there's no right answers. There are popular answers that people give all the time, you know, Tupac, Biggie, Nas, Jay-Z, and now Kendrick Lamar has really started to enter that conversation as a serious contender. But at the end of the day, it's all an opinion, right? There are things that we kind of agree on as a group that are bad and things that we agree on that are good. But at the end of the day, it's still just collective opinion. So I could get on this video and I could say Lil Pump is better than Tupac. And obviously most of you would look at me like I'm crazy, which I don't believe that. Come on now, like that's ridiculous. But at the end of the day, that would just be how I felt. And there would be no real concrete ways to prove to me that Lil Pump doesn't make better music than Tupac if I enjoy Lil Pump's music more than I enjoy Tupac's. It would just be you telling me that I'm an idiot. And you would probably be right. But at the end of the day, there's no real way to say you are wrong about that. I just want to quickly clarify that I'm not making this video talking about who I believe to be the greatest lyricist of all time or who's the greatest rapper just based off of technical rapping ability. Otherwise, Kanye would be nowhere near the top of this list. I'm not, delusional. I may be a biased Kanye fan, but I'm not delusional. That would be ridiculous, especially looking at some of his work over the last couple of years. But I am making this video to talk about who I believe has made the greatest rap music throughout a discography, throughout a career. That's what I'm talking about. Just to clarify, again, for anybody that might be confused. And I know if you've seen a lot of my recent videos, especially my recent Kanye videos, you would see that a lot of that stuff was very, very negative. And I stand by that stuff. I'm not taking any of that back. I don't disagree with anything that I've said about Kanye really in the last couple of years at all. I still feel the way that I feel about the man. And I hate pretty much everything that he's become over the last couple of years. I hate the fact that he is a black Nazi. I hate the fact that he let people like Nick Fuentes get into his ear and Mio Yiannopoulos get into his ear and all these weirdos that are surrounding him. And recently his music has been disappointing at best, speaking specifically on the Vulture series. So I don't take any of that stuff back, but that hasn't completely changed the entire premise of this video. That hasn't changed him having GOAT status in terms of what he's done musically, at least as of yet. If the stuff that he's doing right now continues into the foreseeable future, then yeah, I might have to change my opinion on this. But as of right now, I still stand by what I'm saying in this video. I believe that Ye has the best discography in the history of rap. Now, I know some old heads are going to be kind of mad at me for saying that, but here's how I come to the conclusion. I don't believe that Ye's discography is perfect. I know that might be kind of shocking for me to say that, considering I'm making a video calling him the GOAT. I don't think his discography is perfect, though. I'm really not enjoying the Vulture series as of right now. Vultures 1 was like, okay, there were some solid songs on there. Vultures 2 was pretty bad, in my opinion. But some people may have, a few less holes in their discography, a few less misses in their discography, or no misses, let's just say, hypothetically. But nobody has gone for as long as Ye has with as many projects as Ye has at that high of a quality, in my opinion. Nobody can really match him there. The only one that you can really compare him to is maybe Jay-Z, but even still, I don't believe that Jay-Z can match Ye in terms of discography and what I'm talking about. He has gone for over 15 years now of extremely high quality projects in rap. from College Dropout all the way in '04, all the way up until Donda in 2021. He's been consistently dropping high quality projects. Have there been misses? Yeah, there's been a couple, a handful, but at the end of the day, nobody can really match that, in my opinion. Not only is the discography running like 20 years long now at this point, but it's consistently evolving. Like almost from project to project, you can hear the music evolving and changing. To make a comparison, he's kind of like Chris Jericho in that way, where Chris Jericho, if you don't know wrestling, this isn't going to make sense to you, but Chris Jericho consistently evolves himself to relate to what's going on in the wrestling world around him. And that's how he's been able to be a wrestler for 30 to 40 years now, pretty much. Kanye is very much the same. He is consistently evolving with the times, and you hear that in his music. And not only is he evolving with the times, sometimes he is influencing how the times are evolving because of his music. Pretty much every project, if you go from project to project, you can hear a massive difference in how the project sounds outside of like College Dropout to like Registration. And maybe you can stretch that to Graduation, but I would even say they sound massively different. Almost project to project, you can hear a massive change in Kanye's music. You can hear the sonical differences in what he's trying to do, what he's trying to get at throughout his music. And I think that's incredible. I love seeing stuff like that in music because that's just how people are in real life. It reflects real life. You know, when you're thinking about certain things one year and you're on a certain mode, one year you're in a certain vibe, one year you're doing certain things, dressed in a certain way. In 2 years, you're probably going to be fairly different to that. You might not be a completely new person, but you're not going to be doing the exact same things you were doing 2 years ago. And that's the type of thing that we see in Kanye's music. It's very realistic to what actually happens as a person. And, you know, a great example of this is this picture of this Kanye outfit from 2017. Around 2017, people were still wearing, you know, super skinny jeans and, you know, more tighter clothing. And this fit was kind of crazy. People were looking at this like, what even is this stuff? And now today, this would be a fire fit. This is a fit that you would see somebody walking down the street. And this is a fit that you would see, you know, one of those little fashion creators making a get ready with me on TikTok wearing. So Kanye is just the symbol for evolution throughout music. And that's something that I really, really value in my music. And that's what makes it feel so real, because you can see and hear Kanye changing throughout his music. You can hear what he's hyper focused on in terms of his ideas consistently changing throughout his music, and the sound is changing right alongside it. What Ye does really well is innovate. He's always bringing something new to the board, something that makes him stand out from the rest of what's going on in rap, with the most obvious examples of this being like 808s and Heartbreak, Yeezus, even Jesus is King, which didn't really turn out too well, but still, even Jesus is King, and also College Dropout. Like, for the time, that was kind of weird. That stuck out kind of like a sore thumb. And in a space and a world where pretty much everything in rap is kind of monkey see, monkey do, for him to always be the first monkey that's doing and not the one that's seeing over a pretty much 20-year career is very impressive in my opinion. Of course, somebody's gonna be like, oh, well, what about this example where Kanye took this idea from? You understand what I'm saying. For the most part, he's always the one that's kind of being imitated for what's going on in the rest of the rap world. I know a lot of Kanye detractors are currently screaming at the screen, what about his lyricism or lack thereof? And honestly, you kind of got it. You got it, especially on these recent projects like the Vulture series. I ain't gonna lie, you got it. He's not one of the greatest lyricists of all time. He's not one of the greatest technical rappers of all time, but he is a good lyricist. And early on, I would argue that he was a great lyricist. Again, he has his moments that are really, really bad, like a lot of the stuff on Vultures 1 especially, and some of the stuff even on Donda, even though I think that's still a good project. He has, you know, the corny bars that he tries to kind of fit into every song, and sometimes they hit and sometimes they really, really don't. And some people have even like written for Kanye. Drake has written verses for Kanye, or at least 30 Hours, I believe, is the one that he wrote for Kanye. I don't know about anything else confirmed. I believe some stuff on Ye as well. But regardless, yes, people have written for Kanye, but I believe Kanye has put in too much work for us to say that he's not a good lyricist. Too much work in the Graduation series on, you know, something like Dark Fantasy, and even his performances at certain times on The Life of Pablo. He's putting in too much work for us to just completely write him off as a bad lyricist. You're not going to tell me that the guy that wrote Runaway, the guy that wrote Roses, All Falls Down, Through the Wire, all these great songs, No More Parties in LA, you're not going to tell me the guy that wrote those songs is a bad lyricist? Is he going to give you super deep double entendre bars that you have to break down in a 2-hour video like What's the Dirt does? Probably not. He's not that type of lyricist. He's not a Kendrick where he's setting up bars 8 bars ahead, and like he's not doing all that. But what Kanye is he is a great storyteller. That is one of his best gifts, in my opinion. He's amazing at getting you to get into his shoes and feel what he's feeling, kind of enter the mind of Kanye West, or make you really feel an emotion and understand a message that he's really trying to push. He's a guy that writes so you can really feel him. Like you can understand exactly the emotion he's portraying. It might not always be super eloquent and beautiful and come out like, oh my gosh, how did he think of that? But it's something that you can hear and say, yeah, I feel that. That's real. And I think that a large part of his lyricism being downplayed so much is the fact that his production stands out so much. He's one of the greatest producers in rap history. And I think that plays a factor as well into people acting like his lyricism is just not good, which it is. And I think that he also kind of suffers from a same thing as Future, a similar fate as Future, because they don't rap on the beats that like really good lyricists traditionally rap on. People just downplay what they're doing. Because Future's always on trap beats, people completely downplay what he's doing. I'm not saying he's a goated lyricist, but people that act like Future's a bad lyricist just don't, in my opinion, I don't think they really understand what they're talking about. Because yes, people love Future's beats, they love his flows, they love his hooks, but at the end of the day, people love Future for the message in his music at times. They do. That's a part of his appeal. People love songs like Codeine Crazy and My Savages, not just because, oh, the beat's nice and I like the hook, but because they like the message surrounding the song. They like what he's saying in the song. And Kanye is very similar in that way, to where people hear the beats, the crazy production, the crazy samples, and forget that he is kind of spitting on there sometimes. It's not J. Cole or Kendrick in the way that they, articulate their bars, but it's very much good lyricism. Looking at Ye's discography for classic albums is where things do get a bit muddy, as it is so subjective. But me personally, I like to rank classic albums in 2 ways. There are public classics and there are personal classics, and I'll break that down really quickly. A public classic is a classic album that I believe most fans would agree is a classic. Not everyone, not every single rap fan has to agree, but most would agree is classic. Like something like Illmatic by Nas. Most rap fans would agree that that is a classic album. There may be a couple people who disagree, but for the most part, everyone's going to agree that that is a classic album. While on the other hand, personal classics are albums that you believe are classic. You believe they're some of the best albums you've ever heard, but not necessarily would everyone else agree. Most people probably wouldn't agree. A personal classic that I have for myself is like Coloring Book by Chance the Rapper. That album is going to age as a classic for me. It pretty much already has, but not everyone is going to see that album as a classic. Now, to me, I believe Ye has 4 public classics: College Dropout, Graduation, Dark Fantasy, and Watch the Throne. Now, I'm not saying everyone is going to 100% agree with those albums being classics, but I believe that most people probably would agree. Some people might even throw in Late Registration as a classic album as well. But for me personally, I can say that I believe that The Life of Pablo is a classic as well. So to me, Ye has 5 classic albums. He has holes in his discography, mostly Jesus is King and Vultures 2. But besides that, pretty much everything else is at least decent. Yes, Yeezus, Ye, and Donda included, which I add, I believe all 3 of those albums are good. What Kanye has been able to do with his music is create environments and a sound. His projects oftentimes come off as movements. He's one of the best environment creators in music in general. And when Kanye drops an album and really starts a rollout to an album, it's almost like a political campaign. And yes, I'm going there. It's very similar to a Trump political campaign, because he goes out there and he gets his fan base activated. He knows what to do and what to say to get his fans excited for the next project. He goes out there with very specific talking points and things that he's essentially running on in order to get people excited, in order to get people to understand what he's going to try to do with this project, in the same way that Trump gets up there and he runs on immigration, or he runs on the economy and inflation and things of that nature. And he also, like in this recent project Vultures and Vultures 2, Kanye's basically been running on the fact that the elites are trying to cancel him and he's fighting cancellation, but he's still here and he's going to do his thing and all that jazz. He basically has a storyline for himself every time that he starts a rollout and going into his album. And also very similar to Trump, Kanye goes into his albums with a villain. There's typically a villain for Kanye West when he's going into his albums, much like with Trump in his political campaigns, whether that be the deep state or, you know, illegal immigrants or whatever Trump's got going on. Typically there's a villain and somebody to kind of campaign against and really, really go at, somebody that his fan base can rally around in terms of targeting. And Kanye does the exact same thing. Whether the enemy in his album is, you know, the industry, whether that's the elites, whether that's his wife and her new boyfriend, his ex-wife and her new boyfriend, whether that's literally the devil or really even himself at times. His music is going to reflect his mind state and what he's going through, and he's going to bring you into his mind and allow you to kind of run through the emotions that Kanye West is currently feeling at the moment. Whether that's a song like Can't Tell Me Nothing, where he's showing off his pretty much unmatched confidence and cockiness in the rap game, or it's a song like Throwaway, where he's really feeling really bad about himself, and it's basically a pity party. He's going to bring you along that ride. Kanye West is one of the most influential figures in rap, arguably the most influential figure in rap. What Kanye does is he makes things cool. Kanye has been a constant culture mover since before he was even a rapper, when his soul sound started to take over the sound in the early 2000s, but his most important influence is the album 808s and Heartbreaks, which took the 808s and auto-tune sound and really put it in the mainstream in a way that it had never been seen before, especially by somebody who was a dominant rapper. Guys like Juice WRLD and Lil Uzi Vert have cited the album as a game changer for them and really inspired them in their music. On an individual level, we can look at specific albums like Yeezus. Yeezus opened the door for heavy synth sounds at the top of the game, and Ye even said himself that the album was 10 years ahead of his time. And 10 years later, we end up with the album Utopia by Travis Scott, which basically was just a modern-day Yeezus, his version of Yeezus. Even outside of just his musical influence, his influence on fashion is insane as well. When Yeezy clothing first started to hit the market, everyone kind of laughed at it and said it looked ridiculous. The baggy clothing is terrible. It looks like stuff that homeless people would wear, and the neutral colors are so boring. But now that is fashion. That's how a lot of the most pop-in brands look. The biggest impact that Kanye really had on the rap game musically, though, is him breaking the archetype of what you need to be in order to be a top guy in rap, especially the top guy in rap. Kanye West was the first real rapper to kind of break the mold of the top tier commercial rappers, because those guys typically had to be gangsters, or if not gangsters, gangster adjacent at the very least. And Kanye West is not that. No matter how much he wants to bring up his possible GD affiliations, he is not a gangster. He's not a gang. He's not that. He's not a street dude in that way. And that really changed the mold and really changed the future of the genre as a whole. I'm sure you already know the classic story, so I don't need to run you through it again, but I'm going to run you through it again just in case anyone in the back forgot. 50 Cent was the guy of the early 2000s in the rap game. He was the number one bona fide biggest superstar with a whole bunch of crossover appeal. He was the guy. He was number one. And in 2007, Kanye West got the bright idea to drop on the exact same day as 50 Cent with his project Graduation, and 50 Cent was dropping his album Curtis, and it was like this big media thing, them going head to head, who was going to outsell who, whose album was going to be better than whose. It was this big promotional thing. It was great. It was a great time in hip hop. I was not old enough to actually remember this live, so that may make you feel old if you're watching this video, but it was a great thing for hip hop. It was a great kind of sense of competition. And Graduation stomped Curtis into the mud. Graduation sold like 957K first week, and I believe Curtis sold like 691K first week, so it was a big win for Graduation. This was a landmark moment for hip-hop because it showed that you didn't need to be a street dude whatsoever to be the number one rapper in the game. And this moment and subsequent movement after it kind of opened the door for what we see today in the culture. This opened the door for Drake to be the #1 rapper in the world. This opened the door for Travis Scott to be consistently one of the highest sellers first week on his projects and one of the most streamed rappers in the world, and also having this crazy fan base that are capable of selling out stadiums. This opened the door for all these guys from 2016 and beyond with what we would call alternative personalities, at least according to what was popular back 20 to 30 years ago. This all was opened the door with this one real moment in hip hop that showed you can be other. You don't have to be a gangster. You don't have to be a tough guy. And this moment kind of allowed all these people after him to have the success that they have today. I'm not going to say for sure that they wouldn't have had this success without this specific moment in rap, but I think it would have been a lot harder than what it was after this moment. Kanye's 20-year longevity needs to be mentioned as well. Nobody has really done what Kanye has done for as long as he's done it. Kanye West is still one of the highest sellers in all of music, not just rap in general, but all of music. Kanye West is nearly 50 years old and he's still a pillar of modern hip hop culture. And that's the difference between him and Eminem, because I know the Eminem thing was coming up when I started talking about Nobody's Gone on a 20-year run, because people are like, oh my God, Eminem, he just sold 300K, 400K. His last album outsold Kanye's. Eminem is still a big rapper with a huge fan base. 100% true. He's still doing well. His numbers are still kicking butt. He can still do huge performances. Don't get me wrong. But Eminem exists outside of the modern rap bubble. That's the difference. Kanye is still a pillar and still a moving force of today's modern rap culture. What Eminem does is outside of today's modern rap culture. Nobody who isn't a big Eminem fan is paying attention to really anything he's doing for the most part, right? Like, people my age and younger aren't listening to Eminem at all. At all. For the most part, most of us are not playing any Eminem, and I'm considered kind of older now. So the people that are younger than me, the high schoolers, they are not listening to Eminem at all. But Kanye is still somebody that demands the attention of all ages in the hip hop culture, in the hip hop world. Still to this day, he is somebody that attracts everybody, not just his fan base who are still, holding on for the ride 30, 20, 40, 50 years down the line. He is still pushing and moving things in today. People still look at Kanye and what he's doing today, to this day, and use it as inspiration for what they're doing. Then to really kind of end this off, because this video basically is just, my opinion, I'm going to end it off with some personal testimony. Kanye is somebody that I could relate to in the rap space. Growing up, I was not in the streets. I'm never going to be in the streets. That's not me. I'm a suburban kid. I got a nice family. I was a bit corny growing up, and Kanye is somebody who I could relate to. I still am kind of corny, but that's somebody I could relate to. He wasn't a street dude. He wasn't in the streets. He was kind of corny, but he was still one of the coolest dudes in pop culture. And that's why I felt like so attracted to a lot of his music, because I could actually, for the first time, put myself in the shoes of the person rapping, because I love rap music. I always have and I always will, but I can't relate to everything that they're saying. When I was growing up, I couldn't relate to what Lil Wayne was talking about. I couldn't relate to what 50 Cent was talking about. I couldn't relate to what Jay-Z was talking about. And that's what my dad, by the way, just throwing this in there, my dad was a huge Jay-Z fan. He still is. He's a huge Jay-Z fan, and he thinks Jay-Z's the greatest rapper of all time. And he would constantly try to put me on to Jay-Z. Like, he would show me all the music, like, man, I'm telling you, Jay-Z's the best, man. Like, I'm telling you. And I like Jay-Z's music. I don't have anything against it. He's a great. But the entire time I was just like, I don't know. I think I like the other guy. Like, I like Jay-Z. Like, he's cool, but I think the other guy is just a bit better. And I think it's just because he was the first rapper where I could really listen to his music and picture myself and be like, yeah, I can apply that to my life. From the irrational confidence that he had at times to the sad pity parties, I could actually put myself in his shoes and say, yeah, I really feel this. This isn't something that I'm just like, okay, this sounds cool. I can listen to King Von and it can sound cool, but I can't feel it. I can't really be in it the way that I can be in a Kanye song. But to sadly end this video on a much more somber note, because that's kind of how Kanye is ending his career right now, we have to look at what's happened recently. We do. And man, it stinks. It really stinks. From music to everything outside of it. The dude is literally a black Nazi at the moment. It really hurts to see. He already had gone left with the whole weird relationship that he had with Trump and a whole bunch of other stuff, but like, this is where he really jumped the bridge. He'd already kind of jumped the bridge, but he had a bungee cord on a couple of times. This time, there was no coming back. And I'm not gonna sit up here and act like Kanye's the worst person in the world, you know. I could sit up here and try to justify it. Well, not justify it, but like try to make it not as bad and be like, oh, well, this person's a murderer and this person's a rapist and this person did this and this rapper did this. So what really Kanye did isn't, he's just talking. These people are actually, but I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do that because it's still not right. I can try to say, oh, well, this person did this, and I can play a big old game of whataboutism, but at the end of the day, what Kanye's on right now is, to put it in a weird way, or to put it in a way that everyone can understand, it's some nut shit. I don't know. It just is. So hopefully he can get out of this little phase. Hopefully he can get these people away from him, because bruh's tripping right now. And it's relating not only in what he's doing musically, but it's also in his fashion as well. You can see it bleeding into all aspects of his life. He's tripping right now. I don't know if this is a mental health thing. He needs to get help. I don't know what it is. I'm not going to sit up here and judge, or not judge, but try to sit up here and, figure out what it is. Like I'm some sort of therapist or mental health expert. I don't know what it is. But that whole stuff he was spitting on them podcasts, we got to get him out of here for that. I ain't gonna lie. And then now the music's not even good. You can't even say, oh, well, at least the music's good, because it's not. Vultures 1, at best. Vultures 2, no. So as much as I do love Kanye's work throughout his career, what he's been doing recently on and off the microphone has been utterly garbage. And hopefully I won't have to come to a day where it gets so bad that I'm like, okay, this guy just cannot be the GOAT anymore. He just can't for me. I don't care. He had a great run, but the stuff he's been doing recently, musically, personality-wise, everything in general has just been so bad that it poisons the past. Because I'm not going to try and take away his past just because of what he's done. But it can get to a point in where I'm measuring his career and I'm like, yeah, that stuff was really, really good, but everything else after this point has been garbage. And you can't just throw that away. You have to look at that as well when you're looking at his career. But hopefully that doesn't happen. Hopefully he gets away from all these vultures, pun intended, and gets back to some good old-fashioned, regular off-the-wall Kanye. Because this new off-the-wall Kanye, I don't feel it. I'm not feeling it at all. But that's going to be the end of my video. If you made it this far, I greatly, greatly appreciate you, because I know this was going to be a long one. But yeah, make sure you leave a like, comment, subscribe, do all those things. It helps me out a ton. I go by the name of Pay. Peace.